At Charlotte Douglas International Airport, I was standing with my son Nathan and my daughter-in-law Lauren, all of us ready for what was supposed to be the healing family trip of a lifetime to Napa Valley, California. Suddenly, a federal agent grabbed my arm with just enough force to stop me dead in my tracks. "Pretend I'm arresting you right now, and whatever you do, stay completely quiet," he whispered, his voice trembling, his face drained of all color. I froze, stunned, unable to process what was happening. 15 minutes later, I was sitting in a cold, windowless FBI office while Agent Michael Harper pulled up surveillance footage on a large monitor. What I saw in the next few minutes made me realize my own son and daughter-in-law had just tried to murder me in front of thousands of travelers, and my life was now in immediate, mortal danger. If you're watching this story, please subscribe to the channel, like button, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. My name is Richard Bradley. I'm 58 years old, and at that point in my life I thought I had everything figured out. I had built 4 highly successful companies from nothing, survived 3 brutal recessions, and accumulated enough wealth to secure my family's future for generations. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared me for losing my wife Margaret to pancreatic cancer 9 months earlier. The doctors gave us 8 months after diagnosis. She fought bravely for 6, and in the end, she slipped away in our bedroom while I held her hand. Her final words still echo in my head every single day. "Promise me you'll fix things with the kids. Richard. Promise me you'll stop letting work be your entire world." That promise was the only reason I was standing in the security line that crisp November morning with Nathan and Lauren, heading to California to finally honor Margaret's dream. Nathan was 32, handsome, with his mother's soft blue eyes and gentle smile, but he had never inherited her sharp intuition or her rock-solid moral compass. Lauren was 29, beautiful, charming, always perfectly dressed, and from the very first day Margaret met her, my wife had serious doubts. That girl spends more on handbags in a month than most families make in a year. Margaret had told me one night while I was buried in my phone, and the way she looks at our financial statements, it's like she's taking inventory, not showing interest. I told Margaret she was being paranoid. I told her Lauren made Nathan happy, and that was all that mattered. We had planned every detail of this trip down to the last dollar first-class tickets, a private 5-bedroom villa overlooking the Silverado Trail, hot air balloon ride at sunrise, dinners at the French Laundry, vineyard tours, everything Margaret had ever circled in her travel magazines. I honestly believed this trip would finally make me the father and grandfather she had begged me to become. The TSA agent waved me forward. I handed over my boarding pass and driver's license exactly like I had hundreds of times on business trips. But this time, the agent's expression changed the moment he looked at the screen. His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach drop. "Act like I'm arresting you and keep quiet," he whispered urgently, his voice barely audible over the airport noise. "Do not turn around. Do not make any gestures. Your life depends on it." Behind me, I heard Nathan's concerned voice. "Dad, what's happening?" The agent stepped around the counter, guiding my elbow firmly but gently. "Sir, I need you to come with me for additional screening. Just routine procedure." My legs felt like concrete as I followed him, my mind racing in 1,000 directions at once. Lauren's voice carried the perfect note of worried daughter-in-law. "Is there a problem, officer?" The agent answered smoothly. "Nothing to worry about. Ma'am, please wait in the boarding area. We'll have Mr. Bradley back to you shortly." As we walked away from the checkpoint, I caught one last glimpse of Nathan and Lauren standing together, looking like the picture of a loving family concerned for their patriarch. If I hadn't heard the agent's warning myself, I would have believed every second of their performance. 20 minutes later, I found myself in that windowless FBI office, still trying to process what I had just learned about my own son. Agent Michael Harper closed the door behind us. Two metal chairs faced a wall-mounted monitor. Mr. Bradley, I'm going to show you something very difficult to watch, he said quietly, his voice full of sympathy. The screen flickered to life, showing crystal-clear footage from the check-in area at exactly 6:52 a.m. There we were, looking like any other excited family heading on vacation. Watch your son's hands, Agent Harper instructed. I leaned forward as the timestamp rolled. Nathan reached into Lauren's designer purse and pulled out a tiny amber vial. My stomach turned as I watched him unscrew the cap of my sealed water bottle and empty the entire contents inside in less than 3 seconds. He capped it, slipped it back into my carry-on, and gave Lauren the smallest nod. Jesus Christ, I whispered, barely able to breathe. Agent Harper paused the video. Lab analysis confirms a lethal dose of synthetic fentanyl mixed with a fast-acting cardiac agent. That concentration would have caused cardiac arrest within 90 minutes to 2 hours. I gripped the table, remembering Margaret's voice from almost 2 years earlier during a family dinner. That girl is calculating. Richard, not curious, she had said. I know the difference. I had brushed her off, told her she was being ridiculous. Agent Harper resumed the footage. After Nathan capped the bottle, he turned to Lauren. The audio was faint, but the lip reading was crystal clear. It's done, Nathan whispered, his face pale. Lauren squeezed his arm and answered. Remember, we're doing this for us. Those people in Vegas won't wait much longer. What if something goes wrong? Nathan whispered back, his voice shaking. Lauren replied coldly, Nothing will go wrong. By tonight, we'll be free, and your father will finally be at peace with your mother. Agent Harper stopped the recording. We're still investigating their full motives, but it's clear this wasn't spur of the moment. This was planned, discussed, rehearsed. My son hadn't just tried to kill me in a moment of desperation. This had been calculated for weeks, maybe months, Mr. Bradley. We can arrest them right now, Agent Harper continued. We have enough for attempted murder charges, but their lawyers will argue the evidence is circumstantial. Rich kids with high-priced attorneys walk away from worse every day. I stared at the frozen screen showing my son's guilty face, unable to speak. What's the alternative? I finally managed to ask. Agent Harper met my eyes and said, You continue with your trip. We'll have agents monitoring every move. Let them try again. And we'll have ironclad evidence no jury could ever ignore. Outside this room, normal people were catching flights to visit family, to live ordinary lives where their children didn't plot their murder. They mentioned those people several times, I said quietly. Who are they so afraid of? Agent Harper's expression darkened. Loan sharks tied to organized crime out of Las Vegas. Your son owes $820,000. They're under extreme pressure from people who don't negotiate. I thought about Margaret's final words about fixing things with our children. This wasn't what she meant, but this was the hand I had been dealt. Agent Harper, I said finally, my voice steady for the first time. Set up your surveillance. I'm going to California. He nodded grimly. We'll wire you with a tracking device and emergency beacon. Agent Sarah Mitchell will be on your flight. And we'll have local support in Napa. And if they succeed before you can stop them, I asked. He met my eyes and answered. They won't. But what you're about to do takes incredible courage. My wife always said I was too stubborn for my own good. 1 hour later, I walked back toward the boarding gate equipped with hidden surveillance devices and a dangerous plan that would either give me justice or get me killed. The boarding announcement echoed through the terminal as passengers lined up for Delta Flight 192 to San Francisco. I clutched my boarding pass, the surveillance device hidden beneath my shirt feeling heavier than any weight I had ever carried. Dad, you look pale, Nathan said, approaching with our bags, You sure you're feeling okay? The concern in his voice would have touched me an hour earlier. Now it sounded like a predator checking if his prey was weakening. Lauren linked her arm through mine with practiced sympathy. Don't worry, Richard. Once we're in the air, you can relax. Maybe have a nice cold drink. We settled into first class. Me by the window, Nathan in the middle, Lauren on the aisle. The flight attendant asked, "Can I get you anything to drink?" Nathan answered quickly, "Water for my father, please." I watched him carefully. Was he disappointed I hadn't drunk from the poisoned bottle yet? "Actually," I said calmly, "I'll have coffee. Black." A flash of frustration crossed Nathan's face. "Dad, caffeine isn't good for you. You should stick to water." I smiled and repeated, "I'm fine with coffee, son." As we taxied down the runway, I studied my son's profile and wondered when he had learned to lie so smoothly. Once we were airborne, Nathan started again. "So Dad, with Mom gone, you're carrying a huge burden running all 4 companies alone." Here it was. Plan B. "I've managed fine for 35 years. I answered. Lauren chimed in smoothly. "Nathan has his Stanford MBA. He knows the business inside and out." Nathan leaned forward. "What if we started transitioning some responsibilities? You could sign over operational control of the Carolina division." I pretended to consider it. "That's a big step. You'd still own everything." Nathan continued quickly. "But having my name on operational documents would streamline things. And if something happened to you, God forbid, there wouldn't be legal complications." The casual way he said "if something happened to you" made my skin crawl, Lauren added. "We could also look at real estate holdings, transfer some properties into Nathan's name for tax purposes." They wanted seamless asset transition when I died, which they expected within hours. "Let me think about it," I said, closing my eyes and pretending to nap. 3 hours in, Nathan tried again. "Dad, about that water. You haven't had anything to drink since Charlotte." "I'm fine with coffee," I answered. "But you could get dehydrated." He pressed, almost desperately. The persistence was almost comical. My son frantically trying to convince me to drink his poison. Halfway through the flight, I spotted Agent Sarah Mitchell 4 rows behind us. She gave me an imperceptible nod. When I returned from the restroom, Nathan held a fresh water bottle. "The flight attendant brought this for you." The seal appeared intact, but I knew better. "Thanks, but I'm still working on my coffee." The disappointment in his eyes was unmistakable. As the hours dragged on, Lauren grew more agitated, checking her watch constantly, typing furiously on her phone, updating those mysterious people who wouldn't wait. During meal service, she said, "Richard, you've barely touched your food. Are you feeling all right?" "Just not hungry," I answered. "You should eat something. Keep your strength up." She pressed, the fake concern almost insulting. 7 hours in, Nathan made one final attempt. "Dad, when we get back to Charlotte, maybe we could meet with the lawyers about the business transition." "Maybe," I said noncommittally. I saw him exchange a panicked look with Lauren. They were running out of time and options. 9 hours later, as the plane touched down in San Francisco, I felt both relief and dread. I had survived the flight, but the real test was just beginning. The drive north from San Francisco unfolded like a California dream. Golden hills covered in vineyards, ancient oak trees, cypress sentinels against an impossibly blue sky. Nathan drove the rented black Escalade while Lauren pointed out every famous winery, playing the perfect tour guide. "Look at that," Dad Nathan exclaimed, gesturing toward a stunning vineyard. Mom would have loved this. The mention of Margaret felt like a knife twist. He was using her memory to manipulate me. She would have, I agreed quietly. We checked into the private villa perched high above the Silverado Trail. 5 bedrooms, stone walls, infinity pool, total seclusion. That night, the villa manager, a distinguished man named Gregory, approached me discreetly, shook my hand, and slipped a small device into my palm. "If there's anything you need, contact me directly," he said with emphasis. Gregory was my FBI lifeline. The next morning, Nathan started planning our itinerary with enthusiasm. "We should hit the best wineries tomorrow," he said, spreading brochures across the table. "Then a private tour, maybe a hot air balloon ride." We spent the day wandering Napa's picturesque towns. Lauren bought an expensive silk scarf. Nathan took endless photos, playing the devoted son perfectly. That evening, as Nathan and Lauren went out for dinner, Gregory appeared at my door. "Local teams are coordinated," he whispered. "Agent Mitchell is 2 floors below. We've positioned surveillance at every location your son has researched." He handed me an emergency beacon. "Press this twice if you're in danger. Response time under 4 minutes. "And if they succeed first?" I asked. Gregory's expression was grim. "They won't. One more thing," he added. "We've identified their financial pressure. Loan sharks connected to Vegas organized crime. Your son owes $820,000. So Nathan wasn't just greedy. He was desperate." "How long do they have?" I asked. "Based on intercepted communications. Less than 10 days. No wonder they were pushing so hard." After Gregory left, I stood on my balcony overlooking the moonlit valley. Napa glittered below, a place that had witnessed centuries of beauty and betrayal. Tomorrow it would witness one more family tragedy. I thought about Margaret's final words about fixing things with our children. She had meant healing and forgiveness. Instead, I was about to watch our son reveal himself as a killer. The next morning, we set off for the private overlook Nathan had been talking about non-stop. The California countryside unfolded like a postcard, rolling hills covered in golden vines, ancient stone wineries, cypress trees pointing to the sky. Nathan drove with steady confidence. Lauren sat in the passenger seat, pointing out picturesque villages on distant hilltops. "This is incredible, Dad," Nathan said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Mom always dreamed of seeing Napa. Every mention of Margaret now felt calculated. "She would have loved it," I replied, my hand resting on the emergency beacon in my pocket. We drove for almost an hour through winding roads, passing vineyards where workers harvested grapes by hand. "There it is," Nathan announced, pulling into a narrow gravel parking area. The overlook stretched before us with a panoramic vista of the entire valley. A flimsy wooden fence marked the edge, beyond which the ground dropped away into a sheer 400-foot ravine onto jagged rocks. "Perfect spot for photos," Lauren said, pulling out her phone. I looked down. The drop was instantly fatal. A fall would leave nothing to identify. "Dad, come stand here," Nathan called, positioning himself near the fence. "The light is perfect." Every instinct screamed danger, but I walked over. If this was happening, I needed it where the FBI could see everything. "A little closer to the edge," Lauren directed, raising her phone. "The background will be amazing." I stepped closer, my heels now inches from the drop, the wind carrying the scent of grapes and distant oaks. "Perfect. Now put your arm around Nathan," she called. My son stepped beside me, his hand resting on my shoulder. To anyone watching, it looked like a touching father-son moment. "Smile." "Richard," Lauren called, but I was watching Nathan's face, seeing the internal struggle. His hand trembled slightly. "This is for the best. Dad," he whispered so low only I could hear. "You've been so sad since Mom died. Maybe it's time for you to be with her." His hand pressed firmer against my back, preparing to push. "Nathan," I said quietly, "your mother would be heartbroken if she could see what you've become." Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt. Pain. Maybe the boy I once knew. "I'm sorry," he whispered. His hand tensed, ready to shove. In that moment, I felt strangely calm. If this was how it ended, at least I would know the truth about my son. Then I heard car doors slamming behind us. FBI nobody move 6 federal agents and 4 Napa County deputies appeared from unmarked SUVs, weapons drawn. Agent Sarah Mitchell emerged from a second vehicle, her FBI badge visible in the sunlight. Nathan's hand jerked away as if burned. His face went white as snow. "Mr. Bradley, please step away from the edge." One deputy called in a calm, professional voice. I walked slowly toward safety, legs unsteady, heart pounding, behind me. Lauren's voice was high and panicked. "What's going on? We're just tourists." But Nathan said nothing. He stood frozen, staring at the agents with the expression of a man whose entire world had just collapsed. Agent Mitchell approached me. "Are you injured?" "No," I answered. "But another few seconds." She nodded grimly. "We saw everything. Your son was clearly preparing to push you." That evening, back in the villa suite, it was time to drop all pretenses and face the truth. The Napa skyline glittered outside our windows as I sat across from Nathan and Lauren in the living room. The local deputies had released them temporarily after Agent Mitchell explained we needed a full confession for an airtight case. Now, in the privacy of the villa, the masks could finally come off completely. Nathan sat hunched forward, hands clasped tightly, shaking uncontrollably. Lauren perched on the edge of her chair, her usual perfect composure replaced by raw panic. I broke the heavy silence. "I know everything. The fentanyl in Charlotte, the $820,000 you owe the Vegas mob, the plan to push me off that cliff." Nathan's head snapped up. "Dad, I can explain." "Can you explain why you put poison in my water bottle at the airport?" I interrupted. "Can you explain why you just tried to push me off a 400-foot drop?" The color drained from both their faces. "How did you—" Nathan started. "The FBI has been watching you since the moment you tampered with my drink," I answered. "Every whispered conversation, every desperate plan, every lie you've told me. They have it all on record." Lauren finally spoke, her voice shaky. "Richard, you have to understand. We never wanted to hurt you. We were just so desperate. Desperate enough to murder me for my money." I said coldly. "It wasn't supposed to be murder," Nathan burst out. "The sedative was just supposed to make you sick, maybe trigger a heart episode. We thought if you were hospitalized, you might transfer some assets to me." I stared at my son. This stranger wearing my child's face. The lab analysis showed that dose would have killed me on the plane. 35,000 feet in the air, with no medical help available. His shoulders began to shake with sobs. I know. And I've been sick about it ever since." He cried. But Lauren said, "Don't you dare blame this on me." Lauren snapped, her composure finally cracking completely. "You're the one who owes $820,000 to people who break legs for fun." She hissed at Nathan. "Both of you owe that money," I corrected. "I've seen the financial records, the private jets, the designer clothes, the crypto gambling that went south. You've been living like billionaires on borrowed money for 2 years." Nathan buried his face in his hands, sobbing. "We thought the crypto would pay off. We thought we could cover everything and still have millions left. When it crashed, we didn't know what else to do." Lauren's tears started flowing. "These aren't normal creditors. Richard, they know where we live. They've made it clear what happens to people who don't pay. So you made it clear what happens to fathers who trust their children." I answered, the words cutting through the room like a blade. Nathan looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Dad, please. I know what we did was unforgivable. But we're family. You're all I have left now that Mom is gone. Your mother saw this coming," I said quietly. "She warned me about Lauren's interest in our finances. She told me that girl was calculating, not curious. I should have listened. Margaret never understood me. Lauren protested weakly. Margaret understood you perfectly, I replied. She saw through your act from day one. The only person who couldn't see it was me because I wanted to believe my son had found love instead of a con artist. Nathan flinched as if I had slapped him. Lauren opened her mouth, then closed it again, unable to form another lie. Please, Nathan whispered, sliding off the chair to kneel on the floor in front of me. Please, Dad, I know I messed up. I know I made terrible choices. But I'm still your son. I'm still the boy you taught to ride a bike, the kid you helped with homework, the young man you walked down the aisle at his wedding. Are ya? I asked, my voice like ice, because that boy would never have tried to murder his father. That boy would have come to me when he was in trouble and asked for help. I was ashamed. He sobbed. I was so ashamed of what we'd done. I couldn't bear the thought of disappointing you again. So instead you decided to kill me. I answered. We were desperate. We didn't think clearly. Lauren pleaded. Please, Richard. There has to be something we can do to fix this. I looked down at my son kneeling on the marble floor, begging for forgiveness he didn't deserve. I thought about Margaret, about her final words, about the promise I had made with tears in my eyes, never imagining it would lead to this moment. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Napa's ancient hills where countless families had faced their own moments of truth. Behind me, my son and his wife waited like condemned prisoners for my verdict. Stand up, I said without turning around. I heard them scramble to their feet, hope creeping into their voices. Dad, Nathan whispered. I turned to face them. My decision made, I'm going to give you exactly what you deserve. Relief flooded their faces. I will transfer $820,000 tonight to pay off every cent of your debt. I continued. Thank you. Thank you so much. Richard. Lauren started. I'm not finished. I cut her off, my voice like steel. I'm paying your debts because I don't want you tortured or killed by loan sharks. That's the mercy your mother would have wanted me to show. Nathan stepped forward eagerly. We understand. Dad, we'll pay you back. I swear we'll work for the rest of our lives. But mercy doesn't mean there are no consequences, I answered. I walked to the villa phone and picked up the receiver. Agent Mitchell. Yes. Please come up now. Bring the handcuffs. The color drained from both their faces. What are you doing? Lauren shrieked. I'm calling the FBI, I said calmly. You're both going to prison for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. But you said you'd help us. Nathan pleaded. I am helping you. I answered. I'm saving your lives by paying your debts. But I'm also ensuring you face the legal consequences of trying to murder me twice. A knock came at the door. I opened it to find Agent Mitchell and two deputies. Mr. Bradley, are you ready to proceed? She asked formally. I am, I answered. She entered with the deputies, their handcuffs gleaming under the villa lights. Nathan Bradley and Lauren Bradley, Agent Mitchell announced. You are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and assault with intent to kill. This isn't happening, Lauren whispered as the deputy approached her with handcuffs. This can't be happening. The deputy continued in a calm voice. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Nathan looked at me with desperate eyes as his hands were cuffed behind his back. Dad, I'm your son. Your only son. You stopped being my son the moment you decided I was worth more dead than alive, I replied. The boy I raised would have come to me for help. The man you've become tried to kill me for money. But the debts, you said you'd pay them. He sobbed. I will. Tonight, I answered. Every dollar will be transferred to clear your obligations. But that doesn't erase what you've done to me, to our family, to your mother's memory. As they were led toward the door, Lauren turned back to me with pure venom in her eyes. "You're a cruel old man. We could have been a family." "We were never a family," I said quietly. "We were a target and two predators." Nathan said nothing as they escorted him out, but I saw tears streaming down his face. Whether tears of remorse or self-pity, I would never know. Agent Mitchell lingered after the deputies left with their prisoners. "That was the right decision. Mr. Bradley," she said. "Most people would have chosen mercy or justice. You chose both. My wife always said the hardest choices are the right ones." I answered, "The money transfer will be completed within the hour. I keep my promises, even to people who tried to kill me." She nodded approvingly. "They'll be extradited to North Carolina within the week. With the evidence we have, they're looking at 17 to 20 years each." After she left, I stood alone in the villa suite, surrounded by the silence that follows the end of a storm. Napa continued to glitter outside my window, indifferent to the human drama that had just ended within these walls. 9 months later, I sat in my Charlotte home reading the newspaper headline that finally closed this chapter of my life forever. "Father-son murder conspiracy trial ends in conviction." The headline stared back at me from the Charlotte Observer as I sipped my morning coffee. 9 months had passed since Napa, and justice had finally spoken. Nathan Bradley, 17 years in federal prison. Lauren Bradley, 20 years for being the mastermind. The sentences were exactly what Agent Mitchell had predicted. The evidence had been overwhelming airport surveillance, flight recordings, cliffside body cams, financial records, recorded confessions. Their expensive attorneys couldn't argue with video of attempted murder. "Grandpa, are you reading the scary news again?" 7-year-old Ava, my daughter Emily's little girl, climbed onto my lap. Her brother Mason, 9 years old, was building an elaborate Lego fortress on the floor. "Not scary news, sweetheart," I answered. "Just old news." Emily appeared in the doorway, coffee in hand. At 34, she had her mother's wisdom and my business sense, the best of both of us. "The trial coverage finally over?" she asked. "Looks like it," I answered. "The reporters have moved on." She settled into Margaret's old reading chair. "How are you feeling about it all?" "Relieved," I said honestly. "Justice was served. The people who tried to kill me are in prison. And sad. Yes, sad that it came to this. Sad that your mother was right about Lauren. Sad that I lost a son." "You didn't lose a son, Grandpa," Mason called out from the floor. "You gained a grandson who actually likes you." Emily and I both laughed. Kids cut through complexity with brutal honesty. "Speaking of family," Emily said, "I've been thinking about Mom's birthday next month. Maybe we could visit her grave together. She would have been 55. The idea of facing it with real family, people who loved me instead of calculating my net worth, felt right. I'd like that." I answered. My phone buzzed with an email from the Georgia Department of Corrections. Nathan wanted to send me a letter. "What will you do?" Emily asked, noticing my expression. "I don't know yet," I answered honestly. That evening, after Emily and the grandkids left, I sat in my study with the new will spread out before me. Emily would inherit the companies and the majority of the estate. The grandchildren had ironclad college funds. A substantial portion would go to the Pancreatic Cancer Foundation Margaret had loved. Nathan would receive a restricted trust fund, payable only after serving his full sentence and completing extensive psychological counseling. If he could prove he had truly changed, he would have enough to start over. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was hope. I opened the prison email. "Dad," it began, "I know I have no right to contact you. I know what I did was unforgivable, but not a day passes without me regretting every choice that led to Napa. Prison has given me time to think. I've started therapy. I'm learning about financial desperation and how people rationalize terrible choices. None of it excuses what I did, but it helps me understand how I became someone capable of planning your murder. I miss Mom every day. I know she would be ashamed of what I became, but I think she might be proud of who I'm trying to become now. I don't expect forgiveness, but if someday, years from now, you think there might be room for a son who's truly sorry, I'll spend every day proving I'm worthy of that chance. Your son, if I'm still allowed to call myself that. Nathan. I read the letter 4 times. Outside my window, Charlotte glittered in the distance. Somewhere in this city, Emily was tucking my grandchildren into bed, teaching them right from wrong. Maybe that's what family really is. Not the people who share your blood, but the people who share your values, who would never hurt you, who celebrate your successes and support you through failures. I had lost a son, but I had gained something infinitely more precious: the knowledge of who truly loved me. And maybe, just maybe, someday I would gain a son back too. Looking back at this true story, I realized I made a crucial mistake that nearly cost me my life. Don't be like me. Don't ignore the warning signs when someone you love shows their true nature. Margaret tried to tell me about Lauren's calculating behavior, but I was too stubborn, too busy to listen. This true story taught me that real family isn't defined by blood, but by love and loyalty. My grandchildren showed me more genuine affection in 9 months than my son did in 32 years. That's why I share these grandpa stories, to help others recognize the difference between people who truly care and those who see you as a paycheck. God gave me a second chance when that FBI agent saved my life at Charlotte Douglas. God also blessed me with Emily and her children, who became my real family. And I believe God allowed Nathan to write that letter from prison, because even the most broken relationships can find redemption through genuine repentance. The hardest lesson from this true story, sometimes protecting yourself, means letting go of people you've loved your whole life. But it also means opening your heart to those who truly deserve your trust. These grandpa stories aren't just entertainment. They're warnings wrapped in hope. Through all these grandpa stories I've shared, I've learned that if my experience helps even one person recognize toxic family members before it's too late, then sharing this painful chapter was worth it. What's your story? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-preservation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that matter.